if you're elected. Or when you're elected, sorry about that. It's a wrong language, wrong language. All right, well, welcome to GDREIA monthly meeting here, October. We try to do this every October. Some of you have been here before, thank you very much. GDREIA stands for Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association. We are a association, a membership association of small and mom and pop landlords. We don't call them anymore, we call them housing providers. And we don't call it tenants anymore, we call them residents. They're a little more respectable. Okay? So we have been here 45 plus years. We're a non-profit education organization. That's our focus. We teach our members how to do things right, how to respect the owners in the neighborhood where they have their rental properties. Want everything done. Follow the landlord-tenant law to the T. And if they get in trouble, it's not about their fault, because we already taught them. We have fair housing people coming here all the time. Carl Keith is here all the time. Talk to us about the auditors, what they do, how everything is recorded. And then we're one of the 13 organizations in Ohio. We call them REIAs, Real Estate Investors Associations. And we have Ohio REIA, which manages all 13 of them. Huh? Can you hear me?
No, we can't.
Yeah, okay, sorry about it. I gotta get closer here. All right, so we have Ohio REIA, and their main function is be active legislatively and stay in touch with the legislators on any issues that are coming up, preferably before they come up. And Dan does a very good job of it. Other than that, we have, closest associations we have is in Cincinnati. We have one chapter in Springfield, in Columbus and Toledo and all the cities, 13 cities. So it's all run by all volunteer organizations. Marsha had been here close to 40 years.
We're not talking age.
Okay. I've been here about 30 plus years. So this is a passion of ours to help our members to do the things right way. So, am I forgetting anything?
No, I think we got it covered.
All right. Then I'm going to introduce you to Dan Addison. If you got a minute, say a little bit about what you do for Ohio REIA and for all the REIAs.
And then also anything that's pending that these people might like.
Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly an honor to be here. Sean told me I had 45 minutes tonight, so I hope that's okay. No, seriously, thank you for coming. It's a very important night for me. It's been an honor to be here. Sean and Marcia have hosted this thing for many years. I appreciate you putting together such an esteemed panel for us so we can hear what they have to say and try and let them know what some of our concerns are in the legislative field. I represent over 3,500 members for OREA. We have, as Sean was saying, from the small mom and pop guys to large investors. So we truly run the full gamut of single-family homes, small apartment buildings, to apartment complexes, storage facilities, everywhere. So I would ask each of you, if you hear about real estate in your prospective positions, please reach out to Sean, Marcia, Janice, some of those folks. We'd love to be involved in those conversations. That's kind of one of the biggest issues we're having is just getting the elected officials to reach out to us when something is being considered. For instance, we passed a couple really good bills tonight with the help of some of the people on the committee here. There was a rent control ban that we were able to put into effect. City of Columbus wanted to implement a really nasty rent control program that would just destroy the housing industry. And we were partnered with some of the fair housing agencies. I mean, it was a really nice bipartisan band of folks that joined together to defeat that. And I appreciate the help of those on the panel. See Rodney, Creech, Phil Plummer, Andria White. Thank you for your support on those issues. We passed one on property tax valuations. I see my friend Carl Keith down there, Senate Bill 126, or House Bill 126. But we have some others. We have House Bill 422 that passed the House, again, thanks to some folks here on our panel. It's over in the Senate now. It kind of reins in some of the abuses from the cities of billing property owners for what their residents bill. We think of it as a Consumer Protection Act. I mean, it's just patently wrong to bill somebody else for what somebody else did. I mean, that's no different than me buying a bunch of stuff at Walmart and billing it to you, she's gonna pay for it. I mean, it's just simply fair. So we're looking to, we did pass that out of the House with bipartisan support. It's over in the Senate now, and we're looking forward to getting that out when the Senate gets back into, when the legislature gets into, back into session November 15th, I believe is the date. Right now, there's a bill in the House. You know, we've done a very good job getting our bills out of the House with some good folks there, and out of the Senate, but right now there's one, it's House Bill 566. It's a vacant property registration proposal that's out there it's a bipartisan bill with Representative Andria White and Willis Blackshear. Join forces on that. I was talking to Auditor Keith about that. We have some concerns on it. We've had some good dialogue with Representative White, and certainly appreciate her and her staff. And
I got it here.
But we're trying to work through it and see how we can accomplish the goals that all of us have in that. So with that, with no further ado, Sean ready.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for what you do for us at the state level. And I almost forgot to introduce our president, Janice.
Just a couple of words. Thank you. I'm glad you're all here, and I hope we have some great questions for the people in the know, and we can have some fantastic answers, whether we like them or not. So, thank you for coming, everybody.
Marsha is a past president of this organization. I'm also a past president of this organization. So the folks here, the volunteers, they'll just pull their heart out to help this organization. And with that, I'm going to introduce Marsha Grossman. She will be the moderator. And I passed on 4x6 cards to people. If they have any questions, please write them in, and then Dean, where are you, Dean? He'll pick up the questions and Marsha will compile them while the introductions are going on. Okay? So you want to say anything?
No.
Well, we'll start with, told me she has to leave, so I'm going to give her the mic so she can finish her introduction.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation tonight, and I have an opportunity to talk to quite a few groups tonight. So I'm Lerenda Jackson. I am running for the 39th House District seat. It's a little further north from here. It's Inglewood, Clayton, Trotwood, Vandalia, Butler Township, Harrison Township, Jefferson Township, and it's some West Carrollton and Miamisburg. I am a mom, wife, a small business owner myself. I am in the insurance industry, and so that's probably where we met. I do have quite a few clients who are investors, local and abroad, and so I know that what you guys do, and I know what I do to try to help you do what you do. But it is an interesting time in our industry. Rates are going up, so I get to explain that all day. And so I'm running for this House District seat because I feel as though the people that I connect with every day are not represented well. And what I plan to do when I get to Columbus, first and foremost, is fight for a woman's right to choose and look for ways to keep our schools and our communities safer. Thank you.
I'm glad you're giving up the time.
That was a minute and a half.
All right.
I saw my 30 seconds, so I
I had 30 seconds left on my minute and a half.
I'm going to do this one too. All right. So let's go back to the order. Rodney, you were the first to show up here.
Good evening, my name is Rodney Creech. I'm current state representative in Ohio's 43rd District, which is Preble County and western Montgomery County. Born and raised on a farm, fourth-generation grain farmer. Also a local business owner, if you've heard of Lawn Plus. A lot of times people say they haven't heard of Lawn Plus, but if you give a weed an inch, it'll take a yard. Some people have heard that. So that's the business I started 17 years ago. Currently have 42 employees. I take pride in being a local business owner and a farmer. I think it gives me a lot of experience at the State House, and I'm in my first term, and I've learned a lot. I heard the president say, you know, we're in the know. I just want to tell you that we're not in the know. When you get to the State House, you figure out how much you don't know. And so whether it be, you know, I understand what I do every day, business and agriculture, but when I get into real estate, healthcare, education, I have a lot to learn. So please don't assume that we know, because we need to hear from you. If there's issues in your industry, you might think that we know what's going on, but chances are we do not. And so the calls that we get from our constituents are very important. And I can tell you that the one thing that I love about this job so much is I learn every day. And I'm glad to be here this evening and hoping I can learn quite a bit from you all. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Duffy. I'm the candidate for state representative for District 71. 71 is southern Clark County, eastern Greene County, and all of Clinton County. It's a gerrymandered district, and that's the first point, because we have a very gerrymandered General Assembly with a supermajority of Republicans who can pass extremist laws that don't reflect our will of the people in Ohio. As I am representative, I will do everything I can to protect reproductive freedom and also to pass, to undo some of the dangerous gun laws that have been passed in order to keep our children and our communities safe. I'm a pediatrician. I worked in Springfield for over 30 years. I'm the founding physician of Rocky Horse Community Health Center in Springfield. And I've worked to help families and children and communities for that period of time. And I would like to continue to work for families and children and communities on a policy level to protect healthcare, protect the privacy of healthcare decision-making, and also protect children. And I know quite a bit about education and healthcare, and so I can provide that kind of expertise within the General Assembly so that we can make the right choices for people. Thank you very much.
What do you know about agriculture?
I live on 13 acres between cornfields in southern Clark County. The back end of my property, I keep chickens and honeybees, and I make maple syrup in the springtime, and I'm very much interested in rural life.
Thank you. My name is Dick Gould. I'm a Greene County Commissioner currently, and I'm running for re-election. First of all, I want to thank Sham and the Greater Dayton Apartment Association, but I know Sham
Real Estate Investors Association.
Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors
Association.
Yeah, this was also listed as a co-sponsor.
Yeah, that's okay. We switch
But
around.
anyhow, for those that don't know,
Yeah.
Sham worked for me at one time. I'm also a real estate broker and a certified public accountant. But anyhow, and I'm also fortunate I'm running unopposed, but I want to let you know what we're working on in Greene County. The three biggest, actually there's three biggest things, but they're all related. Finding workforce, which I'm sure all of you are looking for. Child care for those that are working, and workforce housing, which is really central to this. Those are three big issues. And I'm also on the board of the County Commissioners Association of Ohio, and we are working as a group to work with the legislature and the private industry to do what we can to help all of those. Actually, I brokered a meeting in 2 weeks with the Greater Dayton YMCA, which is the largest child care provider in the Miami Valley, with the Director of Jobs and Family Services to work on some regulation to make things a little bit better for child care. So I appreciate being here, and thank you.
Did we change the time on it? Yeah, 3 minutes. 3 minutes, good.
2 to 3. Start the clock.
I'm David
You don't have
Esrati,
to go 3.
and I'm the sacrificial lamb running against Mike Turner in a gerrymandered district, which has been given to him for the last 20 years. Before that, he was mayor of Dayton, and when I first ran for mayor in 1993, there he was too. I own a small business. He's been a career politician. Very big distinction. I've lived in the South Park neighborhood since 1986. When I bought my house there, people told me I was crazy. I said, I'm going to fix this up, and and other people are gonna fix it up, and we're gonna have a great neighborhood. Well, now we have a great neighborhood. And I don't know if I can afford to live there anymore. Thank you, Mr. Key. Anyway, I have rehabbed 5 properties down there. I'm in the process of doing a 6th. I have been active in the neighborhood, in the community for a long time. And one of the things I have a real problem with is we're not holding elections anymore, we're holding auctions. And I think the first goal I should have when I go to Congress is to defund the politicians. Because quite frankly, we're getting taken for a ride. Mr. Turner has 79% of his money from out of state. He's got 19 billionaires backing him. How many of you know a billionaire? How many of you know 19 of them? The fact is, it costs $15 billion to hold a federal election. I think we can do something better with that. We'll just have, just like a charity auction. You go and you get people to donate to your campaign, and whoever gets the most money wins, and then you give the money to charity. Because realistically, we're not voting anymore. We're getting taken for a ride. And it's unbelievable that we still pretend that we have a democracy. We have not had an opportunity to see what this country can do. And I think it's because we need a voice of small business, because giving $1 billion to Intel to build in another cornfield and take away agricultural land makes 0 sense. It's not near where the jobs are, it's not near where the housing is. There are lots of locations. They could have put a plan where we could have had access to workers, infrastructure, without having extended sprawl. But no, that's not what we're doing with our tax dollars. We need responsible, intelligent growth, and it has to be clean, and opportunities have to be equal for small business as they are for big business. Because you know what's happened in the 20 years Mike Turner has been congressman? We've gone from 300 billionaires in this country to 600 billionaires. Think about that. That's less money for each one of you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us out. Thank you to the association. You guys are awesome. We want to learn from you guys. We got to work for you guys. You guys are the small business owners here who invest your capital, so people can live their lives safely in the places you guys live. We appreciate what you do. Dan does a great job for you guys in Columbus. He does a tremendous job for you guys in Columbus, educating us on your issues, and we're in the fighting for you guys. I'm Phil Plummer. I used to be the sheriff here in Montgomery County. I did 30 years in criminal justice, 10 years as your elected sheriff. So I know a lot of people's pains and suffering. So I went to Columbus to try to fix some of these problems. My passions are, we all want the same thing: good schools, safe communities, and good job opportunities. To me, life's pretty simple. We're all in the game together. We got to work together, respect each other, and move the ball forward. One of my bills I passed was protecting our kids. We had Dakota Collins that was beat to death by his parents. I passed a bill protecting our children by holding children's services accountable and have them communicate with the police department so we have no more gaps in that system. I also passed House Bill 1, which helps clean records with felons. If you do your crime, you do your time. We want to get you out if you're nonviolent and no sex offenses. We're going to get your record cleaned up so you can get back in the workforce and live the American dream. So I'm here to support you guys. Like I said, Dan does a great job. I've had a great career, but I'm going to Columbus to solve problems. Unlike my opponent, who's too busy and left, I'm going to stay here and listen to your issues and fight for you guys. So thank you, and God bless you.
Hi everyone, my name is Addison Caroso. I'm the Democratic candidate for House District 36. I apologize, I was a little bit late and didn't get to mingle with as many as you as I would have liked. I was coming from services, and it's Yom Kippur today, so my apologies, and hopefully if you stay afterwards we'll get a chance to talk and we can discuss some of the issues that are important to you. I'm running in District 36, which is the most competitive district in the Dayton area. It includes Oakwood, Kettering, Moraine, where we are right now, parts of West Dayton, up to the VA, a little bit of Jefferson Township, and then, kind of cuts over to Moraine, and then also includes parts of East Dayton too. So it is a 50-50 district. And why I'm running is because I see 50% of college graduates leaving our state. I see a lot of my friends who don't want to come back to Ohio, and I think a lot of that's due to the policies at our state house that are not reflective of what our citizens want. They're passing anti-choice legislation, they're making guns easier, which increases crime, and they're defunding our schools by shifting the money away to unaccountable charter schools. I think we need state house representatives who want to serve the public. I grew up in the district, I graduated from Oakwood High School, went to Miami for undergrad, went to Duke for law school, and knew I wanted to come back home and serve my community, and that's where I am now. Every single day I deal with real estate law. I'm actually a legal aid attorney where I help low-income and indigent residents get representation and work to find solutions with landlords as well, or that's, even though it's not the proper term, every single day to make sure that residents' rights are respected, but also landlord rights are respected as well, because I think we can find common solutions there. In Columbus, as I said, I want to focus on funding our schools, pushing back on radical legislation, and making Ohio a destination for everyone, where everyone feels welcome, everyone feels safe, and everyone feels comfortable, and a place where we can all build our futures. Thank you very much again for coming out here, and as I said, please come talk to me afterwards, because I didn't get a chance to talk to as many of you as I would have liked earlier. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for having all of us here tonight. My name is Carolyn Rice. I'm one of your 3 Montgomery County commissioners, and I was actually before your group a number of years ago when I was the county treasurer for about a dozen years. And I was here to talk about, at the time, it was the idea of a land bank. And that is a reality now. We've now had our 11th anniversary. And I helped start that. I'm still the chair of the board. We have brought more than $50 million of funding to getting rid of blight, revitalizing neighborhoods, and really repurposing and really building up our local housing. So housing will continue to be an issue of concern, and I know that Dick mentioned we're both county commissioners. We were both county treasurers at the same time as well. And that workforce is an issue across the board, and workforce housing continues to be a very, and I don't have all the answers, I'll tell you that. I'm anxious to hear answers because the stats that I hear are pretty bad. Only the highest level of income actually has sufficient affordable housing. Each level that you go down, it gets worse and worse. And so I'm in a group here that probably has some ideas of how we could tackle that, so I'm open to hear that. But honestly, those are only 2 of many, many issues that we as county commissioners face. We've had a difficult 4 years. My first term in office as county commissioner, we had a big water outage, we had KKK rally, we had the tornadoes, we had a mass shooting, and then a pandemic to cap it all off. But I am so proud of how our county government and our communities came together and really collaborated, and we got through this, and we will be stronger and better for the future. So I'm here to solve problems, just like I did coming up with land bank. I think it's within us to come up with good solutions, and I'm anxious to talk to each of you, and I would very much appreciate to be reelected with all of your support. Thank you so much.
Well, I was going to see if this microphone is better, but we'll see.
Well, I think if you separate the 2.
Oh,
You've got a speaker right above you. That's
I got
also an issue.
Well, I'm Andria White, and it is a joy to be here today. I will tell you, I enjoyed meeting with many of you at the picnic 2 years ago. I wasn't able to make it this time, but one of the things that drives me to want to run for office is that I kind of feel like everybody deserves the chance to grow and flourish to their fullest God-given potentials. And we've got a lot of things getting in the way in this state of everyone's ability to do that. I've got young adult children trying to buy a house, trying to afford housing, trying to pay the bills, and what else you can do are dramatic problems. I started out as a small business person. I worked in healthcare, and then I worked for a nonprofit. And then I actually ran my own communications consulting business, working with small businesses, healthcare, nonprofits, large corporations. And all those jobs were about bringing people together to solve problems. From that, I was encouraged to run for clerk of court for Kettering Municipal Court, and I did that for 17 years. And during that time, I worked in the community to try to bring people together on teen alcohol and drug prevention, building our youth and our families, addressing hunger, And then, of course, all the criminal justice issues. And, you know, during my 2020, we experienced all of the pandemic areas where the evictions were coming in, all the issues you guys dealt with. There's a real problem where there was a two-tiered system, as you know. First, you had residents being able to delay having to pay their rent, but then if they did that program, you weren't eligible to have reimbursement through the second program where you could be reimbursed through those federal dollars. I know there's a bill pending about that. We need to work on that because it should not be about which program the residents entered into so that you guys are made whole. We need to keep working on that. I've listened and learned and heard from people in the community, and that's been my focus. I'm about prevention. You know, what can we do up front and invest dollars up front to prevent issues with our kids, with mental health, with substance use, with workforce lack of preparation, because we need people that can support themselves and their families and flourish, and that feeds into your work. People who want to be able to afford housing and move into houses. And I'm interested in some creative ideas working with you guys to expand your entrepreneurial opportunities. So, you know, let's look at these blighted properties, which Willis Blackshear, Representative Blackshear, brought that vacant property bill to me and asked me to join him in it. We've met with Dan and others. We need to keep working on that bill. But the goal is, how can we get these blighted properties more in the hands of people who want to develop them and rehab them and turn those neighborhoods into vital communities. So I'm anxious to talk. I've talked with Sham about it. I want to talk with more of you about it. How can we keep flowing for our entrepreneurs so that they can do what you guys do best, which is help people live in the neighborhood, have a house and a home that helps them and their families stay strong. Thank you.
Tell everybody what geography you cover.
Oh, and I am running for the state representative of the 36th district, which is West Dayton through the VA, Jefferson Township, Moraine, Kettering, Oakwood, and East Dayton, through Belmont, slightly down to Huffman. Thank you. I'm the current state representative in a different district now.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. See if we can get this mic to work.
Yeah.
I've never seen a mic I didn't like. So I'm Carl Keith. I'm the Montgomery County Auditor, and you know, I know many of you, and I've been to a number of your events over the years and spoken to you on a number of times on a number of different occasions. So it's good to be back and to be here with all of you again. I am the face on that website that many of you use on a regular basis. That is a real person. So I'm glad to be here, glad to be part of this program tonight. Thank you for the opportunity. I tell people, you know, I never intended to be county auditor. Let's try the other mic.
Yeah, shut that one off and try that one.
Here, we'll move that one down.
You gotta turn it on.
Just give it to David.
How's that? Is that better? Better? We'll see if it lasts. I never grew up planning to be county auditor. You know, it's not something that most people grow up to do. I wasn't part of my life plan to be responsible for selling dog licenses or to have my name on every gas pump in the county. But what I wanted to be was a rock star, so, you know, put a microphone in my hand, you know. And so my wife is here with me this evening, Doris, and for those of you who don't know, Doris and I met at a karaoke bar. So that was my intention. But I'm so proud of the work that we've done in the county auditor's office over the years and the impact that we've had in the community. A broad range of duties in the auditor's office, as you know. It's a lot more than dog licenses and gas pumps. It's an important responsibility. It's an important office. I call it the foundation of local government. And because of the different things that it involves. We are, of course, working on a number of real estate related issues. One passion of mine that I'd like to see the legislature move on, since I have the ears of some legislators here and candidates, is the Homestead Exemption program. There's a couple of bills pending in the legislature that would expand the Homestead exemption. The Homestead exemption has not been expanded since 2007. So I think it's long past due for an upgrade. So I'd like to see us work on that a little bit. And then there's a number of issues, a number of bills pending about the property taxes and how to reduce and manage property taxes. And that's one of the things county auditors are in a position to do. We have so much information available, and we're so intimately involved in that process that we're a great resource for the legislature. And that's what we do. We work with legislators quite a bit on bills, and And that's what I would like to continue to do as your county auditor, and I hope I have your support. Thank you.
Dean, and then you will have Marcia. Marcia will sort out the questions, and she will pick the order the questions will be answered. Not every question that's been answered is going to be asked because of the time constraints. If you have time at the wrap-up, we may take one or two questions from the audience. They're mostly real estate related, nothing outside the real estate. Marcia, it's all yours.
Okay. Mr. Keith, I want to put you on the hot seat first.
Ready?
Okay, the question is the time frame going to be improved in turning around deeds being stamped?
Oh,
It's
great
very
question.
slow
Yes,
now.
yes. So, one of the things that happens, one of the things that occurred during the pandemic was when things were shut down and we closed offices and people were sent home, one of the things that the legislature and the governor identified as an essential service was the real estate industry. So that was a part of our office that we kept up. We kept open when we closed the License Bureau and we closed our weights and measures inspections. When we closed all those things down, we kept our real estate office open. But because of COVID, we had to rotate the staff, and we staggered staff. The interesting thing about it, as you all well know, the real estate industry remained extremely robust. And we were transferring 70, 80, 90, sometimes 120 properties transfers a day, every day, throughout the entire pandemic. And so, were we slow in getting through all that work? Yes, we were. We transferred more than 20,000, almost 25,000 properties that year, and so we were behind. I'm happy to say we've caught up. We're have about a 5-day delay now. But yeah, we're a couple of weeks behind at one point. Again, we started people doing overtime. We had people coming in on the weekends, but it was something that it was incredible that how robust the market continued to be, and how record-setting numbers of transfers that we did, even under very difficult conditions. But I think we're down to 5 days now is where we are.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Who would have thought that during that time you'd have that much work to do?
Oh, exactly. We were amazed by it, so.
Yeah. I'm going to go a little bit beyond what I'm supposed to do because of just the people that I have here. And I've got 2 people here that I'd like for their help on a situation that we as investors have. And Mr. Gould and Ms. Rice, you 2 are the elected ones. Okay. Why I'm asking is everybody has talked about we need affordable housing in the Montgomery County area. And part of that is Section 8 with the housing vouchers. And we had a legislative call about a month ago. You talked with one of the people in charge of looking at that situation here in Dayton. And the census on that call was DMHA was the holdup with their inspections. They say they can't do anything about it. I'm not sure why they can't. They say because they're a federal agency, they can do nothing about that. Greene County has this very good Section 8 program going. Ms. Rice, I don't know if you were aware of what we go through with DMHA in Montgomery County. I know Clark
Is that
County.
Greater Dayton Premier Management?
GDREIA.
Yes,
Oh,
same
okay.
thing.
Clark County has a good one. Greene County has a good one. Why can't Montgomery County get their act together?
Well,
Closer.
okay. Can you hear me now?
No. Is it on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Greater Dayton Premier Management, we don't manage that per se.
I understand.
And I am not aware of that problem, so I'd need to understand more.
Okay.
I've never been asked that
Now you know there's
question.
a problem, and I know you aren't in charge of it, but can you talk with them, bring some pressure on them
that if they want, that if you all want affordable housing in this area, they are the holdup. And they
Okay,
have
I
been.
would have to,
They have been for years.
I'd have to explore that. That honestly, I've never received that question.
And we've got 2 other counties here who don't have a problem with it. And they're all federal agencies. So somewhere there's a hiccup.
I can look into that. To say otherwise would be to just make up an answer, and I don't
But
have
I
an
wanted
answer.
to make you aware, since I have you all here as a captive audience, but especially you because you are in Montgomery County.
Correct.
That you need to know what the problem is with getting more people into affordable housing. Because as investors, we don't want to go through the hoops we have to jump through with them.
Right. Well, I can tell you that, Dick, you were at the symposium at the end of August, and I was on Human Services, and there was a whole session on housing and homelessness and the huge, not that that's what you're talking about, but it is a huge, and as I mentioned when I was making remarks, it was, and I who have been involved with land banking and housing issues, but of a specific, narrow stripe. And I don't have the answers for you. I'm going to be perfectly honest, but I think it is a problem that we really need to look at differently. It was the kind of presentation that causes one to say, there's something we're missing here. I don't know, there may be some solutions right in front of our face, and while it's not my direct responsibility, it's not our agency, we have a deep, deep interest in it because housing is one of those issues that is stability for people. And we don't want them to end up being, homeless, and how that all comes about.
I agree.
So I'd be glad, after the election,
Maybe they
after
should
we
go
get through
visit
the
Clark.
election.
Yeah, maybe they should go visit Clark and Greene County and see how they're doing it.
It could be, it could also be scale. I just,
big.
the scale could be a big issue, but I don't want to, I'm not giving that as an excuse. I'm just saying you have to look at it and understand what the differences are and what is different about the, the various. So you gave me a homework assignment.
Sorry.
And I'd be glad to come back, next year and talk about what I found out.
Okay, I'm the program chair, I don't remember, I don't forget those comments.
And I don't offer them and not mean it.
Mr. Esrati?
I've got an answer on this.
Oh, okay.
So since 2005, I've written a blog called Esrati.com, and I've pretty much done a lot of public records requests and looked at how things work in this county. And I can tell you, if you look at the board of GDPM, and you probably go down the list of employees that you can request, what you'll find is they're running on the Friends and Family program, not the best possible people. We have a problem in this community that we think federal jobs, government jobs, our patronage jobs are there for people to get in power and keep them in power until they die. We have a program, a tacit agreement that once you get elected judge, nobody ever runs against you. We don't run against the sheriff, they don't run against the prosecutor. This is not a democracy, folks. And I can tell you, some of the people on that board, right off the bat, shouldn't be on that board. And that's the problem. Thank you.
Let's see. I've got, I suppose the lawmakers and the city commissioner, and Ms. Rice got you back on the hook again. Montgomery County is the 3rd highest taxed county in the state. Why is that? And what will you do to reduce our tax burden?
Is it directed at specific?
I'll start as a lawmaker if this thing works. Can you hear me?
I think I'm
not turning it off. We've lowered your state income tax the last 2 budget cycles. We're going to continue to do that. Taxes are a huge problem. As you guys see, we want affordable housing. It's hard to give affordable housing when we have to pay the tax rate that we pay in Montgomery County. Some of it's our own demise. We vote on a lot of these levies. But you look at our surrounding counties, their tax rates are a lot cheaper, and unfortunately, a lot of our people are leaving because of the tax problem we have. So a lot of this is a local issue, you guys, but we also vote on these levies. We gotta get this under control, or it just keeps going up. Carolyn, you wanna?
Well, I used to be the county treasurer, and I would get this question all the time, and as Phil just mentioned, we vote in these levies. I mean, most of your property taxes, that's what I collected back then. Those are at the, they come up for renewals and replacements, and people vote them in, and people say, I didn't vote for that, and it's like, well, more of your fellow citizens did. And so that is really the source of it, is that there's only inside millage that you don't vote on, and that's a very small proportion of it, and the rest are just various levies that are on the ballot, and they get passed. So keep up, I would suggest, keep track of all the issues that come up and really understand what you're voting for. Many of them are very good, our human services levy is a very good, we can really count on it. We just had that on, we did not raise it. We are getting very tight on that particular levy that we just passed with almost 70% approval. And I'm grateful to the citizens of Montgomery County, because that takes care of all of the 57,000 people in our county that rely on that for support services. But it really is what you vote on at the ballot.
Okay.
Carl.
Can I comment? Can I comment?
Lower our taxes.
Yeah. So, yes, we have one of the highest tax rates in the state. We have school districts who have the highest tax rates in the state. We have Harrison Township, which has one of the highest tax rates in the state. These communities have put things on the ballot, and the residents of those communities have approved those things to provide the services that they want in those communities. Part of the reason they've had to do that is, as Representative Plummer mentioned, the state has cut funding to local governments, cut the local government fund, cut the state income tax, and so in order to fund some of these local services, they've had to put levies on the ballot to replace the money that they used to get from the state. Now, that's what's been going on. It's been going on now for some time, and so it is a fact. But part of the reason for that is the citizens here want these services, and they're willing to pay for them. And we provide services in Montgomery County that some of the surrounding counties do not provide. When Carol mentioned human services, Sinclair Community College, the libraries, all those things add to the tax rate.
No, go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to say is, it kind of goes back also, it's a much bigger picture than property taxes. It's looking at prevention. We are either paying now in prevention, investing in, I'm the joint chair of a legislative task force on childcare and publicly funded childcare and quality early learning. We've got to invest early in kids so we don't have to spend so much money in the public education system remediating children who are not ready to learn because they don't show up for kindergarten ready, or they struggle in 3rd grade, or 8th grade math is off and then they're dropping out. We've got to do more to come alongside, and the neighborhood investment that you make builds these communities. And so we've got to incentivize and reinforce quality neighborhoods and coming around our kids and our families, because prevention, pay now or pay later. The state spends an enormous amount on medicating, incarcerating, educating. We need to do more to prevent people from having struggles so they can live flourishing lives, and that's going to help reduce the tax burden. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. But what you do to build a healthy community is an awesome thing.
Okay. I've got a comment here I just like, and I'm not too sure who it would be.
I'd like to answer that question as well, explain it.
Okay, 90 seconds.
90 seconds, fine.
Actually 30 seconds.
Well, remember I said that you have the Friends and Family Program. When you've got 18 school districts, each hiring a superintendent, and you've got 30 jurisdictions in one county, and you have all these politicians, and then you have 6 municipal courts, and all of them have to have a website, and all these municipalities have to have a website, you're paying to keep the Friends and Family people in power. If you've looked at Columbus, if you've looked at Indianapolis, and you see Unigov, It works. I have a site, reconstructingdayton.org. Go check it out. We are trying to bring Unigov in so that we can stop having to pay double for everything. We had a sheriff. Why do we need 18 police chiefs as well? Why do we need all these different departments? You're paying for politicians, political overhead. Thank you.
I'm just going to read you something just from the audience. Today I was informed that my Section 8 tenant is moving, and I am ecstatic. What does that say about working with Montgomery Section 8 program? Okay, got another thing, and we're talking about taxes, and we'll stay on that note. Property taxes to fund schools was ruled unconstitutional, and the state Supreme Court ruled on it.
23 years ago.
Why is that still being charged and paid to the schools?
Why?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Property taxes to fund schools was ruled unconstitutional and went to the state Supreme Court, and they ruled that it was. Taxes are still being charged and paid to schools. Why?
Nobody can answer that?
I can answer it, but I get 15 seconds this time.
You can get 30. I'll give you 45.
The reason it's still unconstitutional is the exact same, and being done wrong, is the same reason that the redistricting commission had us pay $25 million for an extra election we didn't need. Our state, basically about 20 years ago, was rigged by the Koch brothers to sit there and gerrymander this and get who they wanted in office. And what we have is a supermajority of Republicans. And whether you like Republicans or Democrats, the fact is, if you look at the population, if you look at the voters, we've got about 30% Democrats, 30% Republicans, and the rest of them are saying we don't want part of either party. They're undeclared. They're getting disgusted with the system. They're not voting, they're not represented, they're not running boards of elections, they're not running anything. And as long as we keep doing things this way, we're going to get the same results. If we move to ranked choice voting, where you actually said, this is my first choice, my second choice, my third choice, eliminate the primaries, take the parties out of it, you might actually start finding candidates that you like and that actually are responsive. We could solve this, but we're never going to solve it as long as we have this partisan divide that doesn't let any other voices through. Thank you.
Okay, but my question wasn't answered. Somebody got an answer?
That answers the question of why it hasn't been enforced. The same reason. The Supreme Court will not enforce it. The counties don't do anything because there's no penalties. There is zero penalties. You could basically break the law and get away with it. They have people pepper spraying people in restraints in his jail. That is a violation of the Geneva Convention, and now he's going to be Speaker of the House. I'm sorry. If I pepper sprayed somebody in a restraint chair, I'd be in prison.
I'd like to congratulate David for getting his petitions right. He's on the ballot for once, so good luck to him in his race. Maybe he can solve some problems.
Thank you.
School funding, we addressed that this year, but it cost the state of Ohio more money. A lot of the school funding, you haven't seen too many, your taxes go up locally since we gave more money, but every time it costs more money. Here's the problem. And I'm running for Speaker of the House, Dave, and I'm going to win for one reason, to put Dayton back on the map and do what's right. So
I hope so.
Thank you for that. Schools cost money. Yeah, we should be sitting together. Schools cost money. We roll it on to the taxpayers, but here's the problem. The state should be paying more, but we have to cut out the duplicated services. We hand the bureaucrats buckets of money with zero accountability. Here's your bucket, go do what you got to do. They write all the rules on how they spend the money. We got to get our spending cut. We got to get our taxes cut. We're going to eliminate state income tax. So there's more money in your guys' pockets. Schools cost money, but believe it or not, David actually hit it on the head. We have too many duplicated services. How many treasurers do we have in Montgomery County? How many superintendents do we have?
We have a school district with 242 students in Jefferson with a superintendent, a treasurer, and a board. Why? That's not even an elementary school.
We got to consolidate services, but you, the people, got to speak. We got to quit passing these levies.
We get along fine.
Representative Plummer, while you've got the microphone, I have a question for you. You are the leading candidate for Speaker of the Ohio House. What advantages would that position to you be to the greater Dayton area?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys, Dayton, Ohio suffered for a long time, and I gotta get us back on the map. Simple things like mental health. You know, I'm the vice chair of the finance committee. There was like 18 entities in Cleveland that got capital money for mental health. We don't have enough mental health services here. We're still one of the drug capitals here. We gotta handle the substance abuse issue. We gotta cut our taxes. We gotta consolidate services. I'm just there to do the right thing. It ain't about Phil Plummer, it's about our community and our people. So, you know, say a little prayer that I win, but I'm gonna fight for you guys. It ain't about me. And we'll get this done. We'll cut taxes, we'll have safe communities. Ohio's moving in the right direction. You know, Intel's coming, there's a whole lot of other businesses coming. But like Addison said, we gotta quit letting the brain drain. Our kids gotta quit leaving. When my kids graduated from college, all their friends left. We gotta keep them here. Ohio's right now. We're moving in the right direction. It just takes leadership to do the stuff we're talking about.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to ask?
I got a reason why people are leaving, but the place is dirty.
Hold on. Hopefully this one will work.
You need more new batteries, I've got some if you need them.
Sorry, I try to control myself, but the question was asked and comment made about people leaving. The place is dirty, a lot of dirty politicians. And Mr. Plummer, I don't want to pick on you, but I suffered personally when you were sheriff of Montgomery County. You had people who pandered to Prosecutor Matt Heck to prosecute you. And Dayton is personified. I have family on the East Coast. I came here. My family's calling me out about Dayton being the drug capital, the murder capital. Dayton is always made to look bad so that money is brought in. And the solution, now you're saying you're going to help. How can we trust you? How do I trust you? How do I go campaign for you when I personally know that you will bow down to benefit yourself to dirty politicians? How do I trust you?
Well, if you want to check my record and see if I ever been charged for a crime, you're absolutely wrong. I'm not a dirty politician. I'm here to serve the community. I don't play partisan politics. As a sheriff, we investigated crimes. We turn it over to the prosecutor to prosecute them. Then it goes to the judge to find the guy innocent or guilty. We're one step of the process. One step. I cut our overdose deaths in half as a sheriff, thank you. Then COVID hit, they took their foot off the gas and it skyrocketed again. And that was why I got cut 100 officers as a sheriff. In 10 years, I got cut 100 officers. We couldn't whip the Boy Scouts, and we had 3 drug cartels in our community. This is serious business. You saying we're corrupt is out of line. We're not corrupt. We're in the fight for the people. Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Plummer.
Yes.
You're pro-Intel? Are you pro for Intel coming into this?
I am pro-Intel, pro-business, pro keeping our students here, our families here. We're on Ohio's on the move.
We had 9 automotive plants in this city, and they've all left. And I know that our governor at one time approached Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford, and all 3 of them said they would never come back to this city. So I'm on your side. I think Intel and bringing industry into this community, regardless of the cost, makes us money, creates jobs, hold on, and creates housing. When Intel builds a $10 billion community, we are going to uplift our community in all assets. So I think it's something that's very important. I applaud you for it.
Thank you. We need Intel, we need good paying jobs because of these failed Democrat policies. Food's out of sight. Inflation's out of sight. Public safety, we're in trouble public safety wise. Gas is out of sight. It went up 44 cents yesterday, so we got to end these failed Democrat policies.
That's Carl's.
Not my
right?
Carl's name's by the gas.
Let me say again on the Intel thing, it's not a problem of Intel coming here. It's a matter of, we have plenty of industrial sites that are on already, have utilities run to them, are on public transit, near workers, instead of building it in a cornfield. If you are watching the amount of sprawl and the number of roads and how much we keep growing out, that's more overhead. You talk about wanting to reduce government overhead. That means more dense communities, people able to walk to work. That means people having access to services that are already there, not having to keep extending out. We have industrial sites right here in Dayton that used to have automotive plants, that used to have all kinds of plants. You could have put an Intel plant right in the heart of Dayton. You could have put it in the heart of Columbus. There's space. But no, they built it in a cornfield out in New Albany, where there's already, that was feeding people. And food is still a basic necessity in this country, in case you didn't know that. We can't keep pushing farmers out when we are trying to build computer chips. We can build a computer chip on sites that we already have that are in for government.
Okay, you've said
Easily.
that 3 times now. My question, though, is all this had to pass some type of a zoning board at a county level or a city level. Somebody is okaying that sprawl in Columbus.
This is a national security issue. We need to build the chips. We can't get cars right now. Our country is very fragile right now because of these failed policies. This is a national security issue. Ohio's moving. There's going to be a ton more jobs and other businesses follow Intel here. We're on the move. This is a good time to be in Ohio, and we should all be proud of them.
Evan?
Mine goes back to the tax thing, the property tax. My issue with that is the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional. It's still being charged, but after that, new individual school tax zones were set up. So now we're paying twice the tax and no services have been added since then. That's what I'm pissed about. When we started paying the school tax, why did our property tax not go down precipitously? That's a problem. That's criminal.
I had a follow-up to that.
Go ahead, Scott.
So basically, I can answer the question about the Supreme Court's ruling. What they basically did is that since schools are funded locally, they simply said, well, we're going to have a lot of the money that you raise go to Columbus, and we're going to dilly it back out to the cities. And I know that the city of Centerville is being punished for having too high of taxes because they get less money from the state. So the way they made it constitutionally fair was simply saying that all the money you raise goes to a central organization, and we decide who gets it back. And that's how they were able to meet the ruling of the court, because now they're distributing out the money from Columbus, even though it's raised locally. And the other question, following up on this, there's a book I read called Race to the Bottom. It's about education in the public schools, and honestly, it is not an issue for anyone here to deal with. It's all controlled by local school boards. And it's interesting that most parents don't even know who their school board members are, and these are people that get their money and decide how they're going to spend it. So if you care, you should run for school board.
Okay, thank you.
I got one question on that.
Okay, Mr. Creech.
I think we need to clarify something a little bit here with this. So every dollar that you pay in your local property tax stays here in this community. None of it goes to Columbus. None of it goes to Washington. You pass a tax levy here, that money stays here. It stays in the money that's raised for your local schools, goes to your local schools, that's raised for your libraries, goes to your library, for your city. It all stays here in this community. What the court said when it was unconstitutional was the over-reliance of that on as a funding source for local education. The Constitution says that we will provide an equal education to every child in this state. And by relying on the property tax, an over-reliance on the property tax, it makes it impossible to make that an equal education opportunity for every child in this state. You know, 1 mill in Oakwood produces a lot more money than 1 mill in Dayton. And that's the issue. That's the unconstitutional nature of it. And so it's still unconstitutional. It's still there. Schools are still over-reliant on it. There's been some improvement in the amount of money the state pays. The state's paying a ton of money out for local education, no question about it. But it's still the over-reliance on the property tax, that's the issue, and that's what makes it unconstitutional.
We got one more comment here, a question.
When I think of the southern suburban areas, especially Oakwood, which deals very little with low-income people, and they have the greatest tax base, one of the highest educational systems in the county. Every part of Montgomery County is not the same. The income levels are not the same. The educational levels of the people that live in Oakwood, Centerville, is much higher than people living in other parts of the county. So you cannot compare Dayton to Oakwood when Oakwood has like a 98% educational rate. You cannot compare it, and housing, I would say almost is 100% occupied, and somebody's paying property tax. To me, is a totally different thing. You know, I've lived south of town, and I've been working on property for 40 years in the Dayton area, and it's totally different. And I don't want to compare the southern suburban areas. They do a good job. They have an excellent educational system, and they're not dealing, and they don't have to deal with the poor or the homeless as much as the inner city does. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Masha, if you...
I just want to say, and I'm not biased, but my husband, he's deceased now, but he was educated. His great uncle was educated, and both of my children have their masters and they're working on their doctorate. So I believe in education. I got my degree so long ago, but I believe in education, and I believe that every city in Montgomery County is different, and it's going to be, the way they educate the kids in their school system is going to be different because of who their parents are, the type of people that move to that area, and they're not going to have the resources as Oakwood or Centerville.
Thank you.
Okay. May I have it?
Hi, my name is Mahawi.
Hold on. Nobody can hear you. Get in closer.
Hi, my name is Mahawi. I'm so glad to meet you guys all today, and I just want to say thank you, for what you guys are doing for the community. That's, it's a lot of work. So my question is, this might be, I don't know, one of you can answer it, but it seems like a lot of people are not working these days. A lot of restaurants are closing early, and I know there's inflation, all that going on, but I wonder why people are not working and the economy is not looking good. I don't know how people pay their bills without a job. So is there any reason why? Maybe you guys can answer.
Okay, you want to take that?
Yeah, wow.
You want me to take it?
Oh, I guess that maybe you should take it.
I can take that.
Yeah, it's his turn.
This isn't firsthand knowledge, but just before the pandemic, I'm a member of the Beaver Creek Rotary, and we had Jobs Ohio came in and spoke about just what Jobs Ohio was doing. And the speaker said that the benefits that are available to people who don't work equate to about $38,000 per year. So until you get over that number, it is not advantageous for them to work. And I think the pandemic just exacerbated that. Probably said that wrong, but I think that's just people are getting comfortable with getting by, and they're doing the gig economy to get the extra money. A lot of that goes into deals in the cash economy, and that's what it is.
We're subsidizing poverty.
We're subsidizing poverty.
Yep.
I'm happy to answer.
You've been waiting, yeah. Then you get your turn.
It's a question I've asked as well, and we've talked about it, and there are articles about it, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things. What I've learned is that, you know, with the pandemic, a lot of baby boomers, which is like my age, who were working longer and longer, and they just, many of them, more than they anticipated, said enough is enough and I'm out of here. And so they retired. So that's just one factor at a level that you couldn't have predicted. If not for the pandemic, I'm not sure we would have seen that. The other thing is that people honestly have gotten used to working virtually, and I know we had a big, during COVID, it kind of exposed a lot of problems that had a lot of Band-Aids over them, and we weren't really dealing with them. So childcare, I know you mentioned childcare, it's a huge problem. And we don't pay our child care workers. I think here in Montgomery County, the average child care worker is $11 an hour. 12 now? Okay, it went way up. But they honestly, these are rational decisions that a woman would stay home because she couldn't afford the child care. And then it just goes on and on. You can go to Amazon and work in the warehouse for $17. And that is better for your family. So I don't have the answer, but I know it's many different things and many different sectors, restaurants included. You know, we just had Basil's on Market closed downtown, you know, right at the river. And what was the reason? I asked, well, why did workers? They have 2 sites. You know, there are 3 sites, I guess, one out in Beaver Creek and one north in Miami, and then that one. And they didn't have reliable workers. So those kind of, I'm not answering your question totally, but I think it's a lot of things that COVID just exposed. If you're on unemployment, I don't think you can be, unless that's changed, and not to mine, you can't be on it for forever. It ends. So people still, at some point, they get off, and how they are, you know, doubling up with people, I don't know everything that's going on. But it is something that we are suffering, all of us, across. You can't talk to any organization that isn't having this issue. And younger workers are demanding flexibility. They will choose a more flexible option for work balance. So, you know, it's a lot of things. And I think we're all gonna have to adjust how we do it. You need to move on.
Yeah, I think, Dave, you have something to say?
I own a small business. I'm in advertising. I work with other small businesses, and I can tell you that we are getting nickel and dimed to compete with companies that have grown way bigger than their britches. Google, Facebook, Amazon. These people can control who and what sees what ads, where they see it, what products, what prices, and we cannot, there is no way to fight it. There is no way you should be in control of search, in control of the ads, in control of the rates you're charging, and sit there and make more and more money and just say, all of a sudden, I have a client, he imports and sells binoculars. One day his ads stopped working. Guess what? They raised the minimum bid. So he has to pay more to Google now just to get business.
Is your solution socialism or?
No, it's called antitrust, and it was a law that was on the books forever. The invisible hand does not work, especially when you've got billionaires buying off the politicians to make sure that they don't get constrained. The shipping companies used to be diverse. There used to be options. There are 3 companies that own all the ships now from China to here. We offshore jobs to China. We never should have done these things. But guess what? Somebody made a lot of money. You don't make billions a year, and then the rest of us somehow get wealthy. It doesn't work that way, folks.
Okay,
the pie doesn't just keep getting bigger. Thank you.
We got somebody else that has a question.
Well, we're going to start wrapping it up here.
No, we got another question out here.
That's the
So I have a lot of clients that are investors, and I would say all of the people in this room really do care about building the communities, improving the houses, and that kind of thing. You kind of touched on that you had ideas about upcoming programs that are going to help build up the communities and deal with properties that are really bad, whether you demolish them or Are there any programs coming up that you guys know of where investors can tap into to help them get into these communities where they otherwise can't, they just can't, either because of safety concerns or there's just no programs out there to help them? Because there's a lot of people here that would go into these communities, rehab them, make them nice, and build up relationships. I think some of us would like to know that.
Thank you. I think Andrea has a question for that, answer for that.
Well,
Because we talked about it this morning. And once she's done with it, we're gonna wrap it up. Each one gets 90 seconds.
I got a question.
Just before we wrap it up, Ms. Rice, could you possibly address the land bank situation on that question?
I can talk about
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the land bank so we have the as-is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I am not aware that we have a specific program for investors, so I'll just put that up front. But we do have, honestly, we have to acquire properties. And I don't want to go into all of it because I can talk to you afterwards, but we really got hit with some legislation, or litigation, I should say, not legislation, litigation, where our expedited foreclosure process was questioned across the state of Ohio, and it's in federal court. We've won every stage of it, but it hasn't been dismissed. But we haven't been able to get a lot of vacant and abandoned properties through that process this whole year. So our supply, we hope we're coming to the end of that. But I will tell you that we have continued with our Thriving Neighborhoods initiative, and I was telling you earlier, are you aware of that program that we do, that the land bank does? So our first one was Pineview, which is catty-cornered from the VA. It was probably 5 years ago now that we did that. We, the land bank, invested $250,000 over about 3 or 4 years. We took down 10 properties. We demolished the 10 worst, not the whole neighborhood, but 10 worst, especially when you're coming into the community, it's better to look at grass than awful, awful houses. So we took those down. We took 4 houses and we refurbished them. So we put more into them than we were, going to get out. But we raised those comps, and we were told if you raise 4 comps in a neighborhood, it helps even the existing neighbors to now be able to get financing for roofs and other improvement. Plus, it just sets the stage for everyone starting to go, hey, I think I'll paint my house now because this house is looking so much better. And we wrap other services, so it's not just the land bank. We work with other agencies, make sure they get to pay their delinquent taxes, and I'm talking too long and I'm sorry. But it's a whole wraparound looking at the whole neighborhood. We've done this in more than one. And I was just at an event recently where a resident said it has absolutely worked. We had hoped it would raise it 30,000. Of course, the market was way up recently, so maybe it's not as high as it was. But they were actually able to sell a house for 100,000 in the neighborhood, which would have been unheard of 5 or 6 years ago.
Would have been impossible.
Huh?
It would have been impossible because you could never get the cops for it.
Right. So, that's where we step in where the market's not working and try to strategically help. But we're trying to get do-it-yourself properties, homes with, that have good bones. And I'm sorry, and I can talk a lot, but we are doing stuff like that, but we don't have one that's just for investors other than our do-it-yourself program, if that makes sense. But our whole acquisition is tough right now. I'm sorry, I took too much.
Okay, just to very quickly, I think this is one of the areas that we need to get a lot more input on and bring people together and discuss. I've been talking to a lot of individuals around the community. There's a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself who want to invest in properties, who want to create a pathway to home ownership for people through land contracts. I know, Sean, this is one of the things you do. Just trying to get more people into home ownership, but there's got to be bridges, and there's got to be bridges for investors. So the land bank has to own the property in order for that to happen. We need to figure out ways to provide gap funding for investors for the short term because of all the rules now that are in place in the market with the banks and things like that. We got to look at some creative solutions. The Treasurer's Office, I worked with them to pass a bill to help farmers, universities, and hospitals cut their costs for borrowing money on their growing season, on investing in hospitals and universities to help lower costs on the long run for those of us who are buying food and going to college and needing health care. But There are linked deposit programs in this state for businesses. Why are we not looking at leveraging the Ohio Treasury, which has to keep some of its money in Ohio that it's investing for us, to pull into play for investors who, we have a huge affordable housing crisis. We have a whole study committee looking at options for this, but we need to come up with some creative ways to help with financing to ignite these neighborhoods and to help you as entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. I've got the mic up here, starting.
Marcia, just a minute. Since we started at that end, we're gonna start at this end, now to wrap it up.
Okay.
Start with this one. I don't think that one works very well.
Again, I want to just say thank you for coming out tonight and having this program. I like to tell people that, America, democracy has always been an experiment, and it's an experiment every election, and it's really an experiment every day. The question is, are we capable of governing ourselves? Are people capable of governing themselves? So that's being tested every day. It's being tested in my office, it's been tested in all of these offices. And so, but it's also being tested by you and your involvement in the election and your willingness to get other people involved in the election and come out and vote on election day. So again, thank you for doing this, thank you for being here, and thank you for participating in our democracy.
Well, I also want to echo, it's a joy to be here again and talk with all of you. Dan has been great educating us on the issues. I do want to point out, I think maybe not all the judges knew, there's several judges on the ballot. In addition to these two, there's Julie Bruns, who's a Democrat as well, but there's also Kim Melnick, Steve Abshire, and Bob Hansman. So take a look at your judges' candidates because they make a big difference in our world, in our real estate world and all the worlds we live in. I just want to let you know that my approach is about listening and leaning into problems. So I love it when I talk with people and I hear about problems. The last 2 years as a legislator, I've run the gamut on 4 bills that are in law. I've got 4 others in the Senate, but they're all different because they're all about hearing what other people are saying the needs are. So we welcome your comments. We welcome your participation in the process. If any of you live in the communities of Kettering, Oakwood, Moraine, East Dayton through Belmont, West Dayton by the VA, and down Jefferson Township a little bit, I'd welcome the opportunity to talk with you and give you a little more information, but I welcome the chance to continue the dialogue because really citizen participation in our democracy is what keeps it going. So thank you again, and I'll pass it on.
Well, thank you. They've stolen all my thunder. I would say all the same things, so I won't repeat it. But I hope that I've known many of you for a number of years, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to fool you and say I do. But what I can tell you, and I hope you can sense, that working as a county commissioner is the greatest honor of my life, and it's about solving problems. And even if I don't solve them, I work very hard to listen, collaborate, and move it in the right direction. And I promise to you, if you give me a chance to serve again, I will be back and we will continue to talk because I think it's going to take a lot of us talking and thinking and opening up our minds and thinking of different ways to solve this because this is bigger than us, but we can figure out what can at least move it in the right direction, and I make that pledge to you. So thank you. Be sure you vote. Tell everyone you know to do their homework and to vote, vote, vote. It really matters.
Yes, again, thank you all for coming out here. I mean, we really appreciate it. It's always nice when there are more people at the candidates' nights than candidates, which does sometimes happen. So thank you all for coming out here. This is such an important election, not just in our state, but in our country, to really hold our state legislature accountable. As I said, 50% of our graduates are leaving the state. We're building this Intel plant, but I worry if we're going to have the workers to fill it. And I think a large part of that's due to our policies in our state. I have a sister in Chicago, and she's worried about coming back here. She's worried about how she's going to be treated as a woman. She's worried about gun crimes in our state as that's gotten worse. She doesn't want the public she likes the public transportation in Chicago, and she wants to be able to get around easily and affordably. And she wants our schools to be good too, because our school systems have fallen from 8th to 30th. And this is basically due to one-party rule in our state for basically my whole lifetime. And I'm 26 years old. So we need new ideas in our state house. We need a new direction. We need public servants in our state house, and I want to be that public service. So get out and vote on November 8th, and thank you again for coming out here.
Once again, you guys, thanks for having us out. It's good to see everybody, and candidates and elected officials, thank you for your time. It's not easy being an elected official in these days because people are angry and they're holding us accountable. And thank you for holding us accountable. We appreciate that. A lot of energy here. You guys brought a lot of problems to us, but please get engaged. Run for school boards. You know, get in the fight. We got to get in the fight and solve these problems. Our state is moving in the right direction. We have intel. We have good gun policies so you can protect yourself and your families.
Amen.
All right? The criminals keep their guns, right? The next policy is you hold the criminals accountable.
That's right.
We fix this criminal justice system and get some judges in the catch and release program. So the state's moving in the right direction. It's the national policies that are killing us. It's the gas prices. It's the inflation. So we're good statewide. We have good elected officials. We're doing the right thing, but it's our national policy. We got to get in the fight, win this upcoming election. Thank you.
If you notice something, people either love me or they hate me. Been that way pretty much all my life. Okay? You can survey that. There aren't any people that don't have an opinion, not very many at least. I do things a little differently, and I mean, my business is creativity. We come up with different solutions for problems. That's what we do in advertising and marketing. But I got to tell you, we haven't seen a whole lot of innovation in politics. All we've seen is more money poured into it, and it's not coming from you and me. None of you are giving any of these candidates running for federal office $2,900 a pop. It ain't happening. Someone else is. And as long as you allow us to hold auctions instead of elections, you're not going to have a congressman that comes and talks to you. Every day at 4, every weekday at 4, I go on YouTube, I talk about a different subject, I answer questions. I plan on doing that even once I get elected. So I can tell you what happened in Congress, what I did, why I did it, get your input, tell you what's coming up the next day, get some insight, and go back. Because there are ways to have a town hall every day, even though Mike Turner hasn't had one in 20 years. Mike Turner does not work for you. He even says that. He says, I work for the base. There's a lot more to this community than just the base. And I'd like to see all of us succeed as much as defense contractors under Mike Turner. Thank you.
I would just like to echo what everyone else here has said. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being informed. Remember the faces up here. When you need something, the way change happens is speaking and engaging with those elected officials. And you're going to be voting November 8th. And if you're happy with the way things are, vote appropriately. If you're unhappy, vote appropriately. But become informed and let your friends and family know what you found. And just, that's all, and I thank you all.
Well, I came tonight to learn, and I've learned a lot. I've learned about real estate, I've learned about some of the problems that I was unaware of. I know a fair amount about zoning, I know a fair amount about low-income housing. What was going through my mind is the redlining map for Dayton from about 1935. If you look at the redlining map from 1935 and you overlay the opportunity map of 2022, they are completely the same. In other words, where the white people live, I'm going to be blunt, where the white people live in Oakland have resources, Oakland, sorry. And where the black people live in the near west side don't have resources. They have food deserts. That's exactly the same as 1935. So your solution for housing needs to be local zoning. It needs to be financial incentives for looking at services in the near west side and improving housing stock. And it needs to be, we need to have judges who are willing to do civil rights law to make sure that your rights are protected, as well as the rights of the people who are living in those areas. Thank you for teaching me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. As everyone said, we're always willing to show up and learn and listen. That's what I did tonight. There's a few things I could have spoke up on. We're here tonight to talk about your issues, and answer your questions. And I just want to extend an invite. I have my business cards with my cell phone numbers. And, you know, if there's something that you want to talk about, I may or may not be your state rep, but we work for you. And that's what you have to remember. No matter if you're in our district or not, we represent the state of Ohio. And so rather than, you know, sit up here and talk and not say anything like some people did, I would rather meet with you one-on-one and let's hit those issues head on. Thank you.
Greater Dayton GDREIA is a great source of information for real estate investors. You can learn what you need to do to succeed. You can learn the different opportunities that there are in the marketplace, and you can meet a lot of people that know about this from their own experience.
It's a fantastic organization because you can network with more seasoned investors. You meet all kinds of different vendors each time, insurance companies, title companies. There's always a different group of people here. And even though I've been involved in real estate since '99, every time I come to a meeting I learn something different. You could also find contractors here. It's just a really great way to network.
The benefits that I've gotten from GDREIA over the years is being able to tap into a pool of knowledge from experienced investors, experienced speakers that allow me to overcome any obstacles I might have from what I'm not familiar with.
GDREIA, we learned that this is a team sport, and being a landlord requires quite a few people to help. In GDREIA, we found our accountant, attorney, property manager, realtor who furnishes the leads for the properties, and I believe the appraisers.
GDREIA in 2010 to invest. The whole team was there. I had a property manager, realtors who had deals, and now I have 4 houses that are all turnkey solutions. I've invested in private LLCs. I've even bought a note. So by joining an organization like GDREIA, you too can learn how to be a good investor.
And we are an approved vendor with GDREIA. We've been with you guys about 4 or 5 years now, and we love networking with the members, and we're here to help. So anything that they need help with, you can find us here every meeting and ask us whatever questions you need to.